For
And
sure.
here's Martin.
All right, Martin,
Hi there, how you doing?
what's going on?
What's going on? Been doing a lot of a lot of interviews today.
Okay.
Some other things I've
Yeah.
been doing as well. So,
Okay.
but
Well,
nice to
we'll
see
we'll
you.
nice to see you. We'll add one to the pile. It's
Yeah, it's
great to
great.
meet you.
I'm warmed
Thank you.
up.
Yes, you are warmed up. It's great to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. And I would love to begin our conversation with, 4 years ago we were trying to figure out this pandemic, and it
Mm.
happened differently on different parts of the world, but ultimately, how did you make it through that time? And how did it maybe influence this project and the way that you conduct your music now?
This
Well, do you want you want to start, Martin? You can
no,
chip
you
in
go
later.
ahead, Alison. Go ahead.
Well, the pandemic kind of made us reassess what was important, really. And you're thinking, well, at one point we thought, is this end of days? Is this we're all locked in and we couldn't? We live in the middle of nowhere, and well, I live in the middle of nowhere, and you turn right and you're in a completely different part of Scotland, which we weren't allowed to walk. So we walk out into the countryside, we can only turn left. Um, but in terms of music, I kind of reconnected with. I used to play the piano when I was younger, and so I kind of retook up piano lessons, and I did that online with a jazz player in London, and even though I could never perform as a pianist, it was just keeping my musical mental state in a good place as well, so that I was still learning as well. Uh, but and also as well, it just kind of made you reassess what's important, or it's particularly being on the planet. Another pandemic had come down the pipeline, and we were back to where we were in 2020. Um, or do we think about the things that are important to life on the planet Earth? That's everything, all sentient beings, and we're talking about the weather earlier. It's the impacts that every single decision that we make has an impact on the things that we do. So I call it my ethical filter. So I kind of honed in my ethical filter. I put everything through my ethical filter and just think, is this the right thing for me? Is this the right thing to do? It might be the right thing for me, but is it really the right thing to do? And I try my best to live like that, and I think the pandemic brought that into sharp focus, just really training my mind's eye on what's important,
Yeah,
and the beauty of music, how music can absolutely change your mindset as well, and keep you afloat
for sure. Have-
mentally.
Yeah. How about you, Martin?
Well, for me, on a practical level, I was very grateful for the fact that, unlike a lot of my musician colleagues, I didn't rely 100% on actually going out and having to play with live work, because I'd already a number of years ago, I think 2009, I started an online guitar school with Artist Works out in California. So I had a whole community of guitar students around the world,
Mm.
and also I have the online as well, Martin Taylor Guitar Club. So I had this community of guitarists around. So from a practical point of view, I didn't feel disconnected. Like Alison, I also live in the countryside, but I was able to move around just a little bit easier than Alison was. Um, and so for me, I got out into the countryside a lot every day, because I've got a dog, so dog has to go out every day no matter what. And I talking to other musicians about that time, and a lot of musicians I know said the same thing. They said, right, okay, I'm going to use this opportunity to write music and do all these things. I've got a studio here, I can do all these things. I didn't do any of that. I really didn't. And I think, well, I've been playing the guitar since I was 4 years old, and I've been on the road since I was 15. So to be in one place, for that length of time, was quite amazing. And I really liked it, and I continue I continue to enjoy that. So it was quite a change for me. But then there were other things that I'm very interested in outside of music as well. That I decided to do some studying and things that weren't involved with music, and again just getting out into nature every day. So my yeah, it was a terrible thing, and a terrible thing for so many people, especially people that lost loved ones. But I just realized I was very fortunate to live where I do, and have the kind of setup that I have here at home, and having played music for such a long time, and having such a connected community as well. Thank goodness we had the internet. We were able to keep in contact with
Mm.
everybody. That would have been a completely different story. So for me, I just kind of, okay, I'll see what's going to happen. We don't really know what's going to happen. Well, we, like Alison said, is this the end? Will we come out of this? I did when we had the second lockdown. I still did start to think that, so
Mm.
what is the future with this? But for me, having done this for such a long time, I did actually think to myself, well, if I look back at all the things that I've done, all the things that I've achieved, the enjoyable things that I've had in my career, and if it finished now, that's fine, that's enough. But I did feel sorry for a lot of the my younger friends who are just really starting out in music, and suddenly it got stopped for them. And fortunately, I can see that that's kind of changing a bit now for them. But so I felt more for them really. But I was willing to accept whatever happened. If it meant I'd never play the guitar again, okay, so be it. I know, I, it's a big part of my life, but it's not everything.
Mm.
So before we get into the release of Songs for Nature, I want to know, how did you two get together and start collaborating? How did the nexus, the beginnings of this happen, where you started making music together?
Oh, well, we're actually family. I don't know if you know that. I'm married to Martin's son, and I actually I sang for many years in a female trio. It was close harmony, um, very much modelled on an older group from the 1930s and 40s called the Dinning Sisters, and which I sang the lower harmony, and I was out on tour. I was touring with my girls and with the band, and our drummer went off on a. He said he couldn't do the jazz festival tours that we're doing in the UK, and so we had to quickly think about getting another drummer. And James, Martin's son, who's my husband, he was on a list. He was on our list, and I kind of met Martin through meeting James. Well, James actually he accepted the gig. He did the gig with us, but then it was on, but then it was off, and we hadn't even met yet. And then another drummer had been set up, but then James is very assertive, and he cancelled the other drummer and said, "No, I'm backing on the gig." So that's how we met. We met through music, and then that's how I met Martin. In fact, it was my parents, because my dad's um, was a jazz guitarist, sort of semi-professional, not like serious, but he did gigs. And it was my mum and dad who introduced me to Martin's music many years ago. So I was aware of Martin's music uh, quite as in my journey of learning about. I was always into guitar. So then, having met Martin, I think was it 1998 or something like that.
Mm.
1998, Martin was playing at the Chet Atkins convention in Nashville, and we all went across as a family. So and Martin said, "Why don't you come up and sing with me?" And I previous offers before that, I'd always said no because I didn't think I was worthy. And but then I said, on this occasion, yes, I'm going to say yes, because it's not every day that you sing at the Chet Atkins convention. Chet was still alive at that point, and he played too, and we played three numbers, I think.
Mm.
And I got my first American review, which was very, very favourable. And unfortunately, they said I was Welsh. They said Alison Burns, the Welsh singer. I thought, well, I'll forgive, I'll forgive you for that. So that's how we met. And then Martin was inviting me to come on guest on some of his shows, and people seemed to really like it. And it was Martin's suggestion. He said, why don't we put a show together, and why don't we do something? This is over 20 years ago, so we've been working together for over 20 years. And also, excuse me, I'd recorded a solo album which Martin produced and played on. So that was kind of our intro.
So
Oh,
talk to me a little bit about this album. How did the idea for this album, how did this all kind of evolve into what we have today?
Martin, you want to say?
I think a lot of that's really because of really Alison was the kind of brains behind this. Alison is very involved in a lot of things, you know, with animal rights and the environment. And you know, I'm not so involved in that way, but I'm a big fan of the natural world, and I live in the country. I walk my dog in the woods every day, and I'm very connected with that. So it just sounded like a really lovely thing. And when Alison sort of came up with a list of songs that some of them we'd already played together, and realized a lot of them had connections with nature. I mean, the obvious one was, of course, Nature Boy, Gentle Rain, all these things that have a kind of a connection to nature. And we just really kind of went with that theme. Just really like that idea.
I was also bringing these songs that were written. You know, some of them were written almost 100 years ago. Some of them were a couple were written over 100 years ago. But actually bringing the message of those songs into today's context just made loads of sense. And there seemed to be like a real green thread going through all of this. Sometimes they call it a red thread. I'm calling it the green thread. So it's just a thread connecting all these songs. And I thought, do you know what? This has got a nice feel. This is if it sparks someone to think differently about the world that we live in, I think our job is done. You know, through the gorgeous music that wasn't even written, you know, today. It was written. So that's something just to connect from the past to bring it right into the future.
We were also inspired by Eden Arbus, who wrote Nature Boy, who was one of the Nature Boys in the 1950s in Los Angeles area, and they were like hippies before hippies came around. You know, they were living in caves and things, and I think he wrote Nature Boy in a cave. And there's a wonderful photograph of him with Nat King Cole. He went along to, I think it was the Beverly Hills Theater, because he wanted to give this song that he'd written to Nat King Cole. Couldn't actually get to him, but then managed to meet, I think it was Nat King Cole's dresser or his valet, and said, "Could you give this music to Mr. Cole?" And he got the music to him. Nat King Cole saw it and just, this is wonderful. I want to record it. Then, of course, Alison tells the story better than me, so I've kind of taken over here. But I think there was a bit of a hunt to try and find him because he was living in a cave near Palm Springs. I think they managed to track him down. Said, "We want to really record this album. Who is this? Who is this guy?" And
I think he was living on nuts and berries and stuff. But I think when they eventually found him, they found him living under one of the L's at the Hollywood sign.
yeah, that's what I heard. Yes.
And they got permission to record it because Nat King Cole was already playing it in his set. But it's one of those songs that's been recorded so many times. But I think we're doing something different with it. I think
I gave a copy of the recording to a friend of mine who's an actor friend of mine, and who's a big jazz fan. And he said to me after, he said, when I saw that you were doing Nature Boy, he said, I thought to myself, oh no, not again. How many times have people recorded Nature Boy? He said, but then I listened to it and I realized it was quite different. There was something quite different about it. I said, yeah, well, that is always the thing among musicians. When you think, I wonder how many times Oscar Peterson recorded tenderly, or some of those many times. I mean, when I was working with Stefan Grappelli, he used to play a lot of the same tunes, and we recorded a lot of the same tunes more than one time. Even Django Reinhardt, Stefan's old partner, musical partner, Django Reinhardt, he recorded his own composition Nuage, I think 9 times. And if he'd have lived longer, he would have probably recorded it 49 times or something, or 149 times. But you always find different ways. That's a great thing about this music. You don't find that's the definitive version. That's it. You always got. There's always something else you can do with a piece of music. Also, for me, because I like playing in duo situations, and I work a lot in duo with other guitar players like Borelli Lagren and Ulf Vikenius, and it's one of my favorite combinations. But what I discovered working with Alison was the real love I had actually of working with a singer and making it. Obviously, there's an accompanying role with the guitar player, with a singer, but actually turning that into a conversation without the guitar overpowering the voice or playing things that are incongruous, um, and just getting into so that it just becomes one voice in a way. That's really the ultimate point of that, because we know each other so well now for so many years that we know each other's approach to music as well. So it's not like it's almost telepathic in a way. But we get this interplay. It's not just like singing with a guitar underneath. There's an interplay going on. Very fine line, because you don't want to go across that line where the guitar then sounds like it's doing its own thing, which we guitar players are very good at doing. If we're let loose.
For sure. Well, the bottom. No, go ahead. Did you?
No, no.
Oh no. The bottom line is that I know you've been doing this for a while, but there has to be something that makes it long lasting. What is the chemistry? What is the allure? What makes it continue to work for you two?
Just to keep performing music.
Yeah, and to make music together and to feel as impelled to do so. What is that continual urge to be able to create together?
Well, for me,
I think there's a lot of, yeah.
I think that
On you go, Martin.
sorry,
On you go.
just very quickly. For me, is even though we may do some of the same songs that we've done many times, it's never the same. There's always something a little different. We always investigate something else. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not as good as you would, and maybe another time you played, you say, oh, I prefer the way I did it a couple of nights ago. But there's always something to investigate. I think that's for me.
Yeah, and it's I think what's important is we always think of lyrics as in I've said this a few times, but if you think of a lyric as a pair of shoes, you're stepping into the lyric and kind of living that lyric. For me, it's telling the story, but it's not just telling the story; it's emotionally connecting with it, and that's a big important part for me is to, and it just, I mean, I don't have to try and do it. I just can't help myself. I just emotionally connect with songs as what is probably in my DNA. I don't know. I just have this affinity. I've had it since I was a very young girl, that I just connect with stories and films. I'm in that. If I'm watching a movie, I'm in it. I'm in it. I believe what I'm seeing. So it's kind of that, the illusion, but also as well stepping into it and attaching yourself and connecting with the emotion of the song. But also just that wonderful interplay with the guitar, which just kind of happens naturally as well. It's nothing's ever really contrived. When we went to record this album, we knew the songs that we were recording. I think we ran over that. We just got the keys and thinking about tempos and feels, and we ran over the songs once, and then we went into the studio and we recorded the whole album in less than 5 days. But we were bringing something new to it every time. Every time we just, well, let's try this. And some of the songs were like one take. Some of them would, you know, the overdubs with the guitar, with the nylon string guitar, and but we didn't have to try too hard because we weren't trying. We just wanted just to create. I think that was the kind of the beauty of it. It was very relaxed. Very
So
great
when
mics, great engineer, great studio.
oh yeah, I feel that with Alison's voice and Alison interpreting the story, telling the story, interpreting the lyrics, it's a kind of, for an instrumentalist, it's like the missing piece jigsaw, the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle, because we have melodic, harmonic, rhythmic elements, but we don't have the lyrics. So when I play some of the songs that we recorded together, you know, I actually play instrumental versions of some of those anyway, and have recorded some of them in the past. And so when I play them, I don't have those lyrics. I don't have that storytelling. So as an instrumentalist, you have to try and tell that story without the words, and which is a kind of a challenging thing to do, actually, to get really into the emotion, because really music is about emotions when it comes down to it. There's all other things that we get involved in, but it's about emotions and about, you know, going straight to the heart. And I didn't go I didn't study music or go to music college or even have lessons, but I just started playing music straight away from the heart, because music used to touch me and it fascinated me. I thought, why does that? If I heard a piece of music, why does that make me feel like that? Why does that make me feel happy? Why does that make me feel melancholy? Why does that make me feel sad? Why does this make me want to really, you know, be incredibly happy or laugh? And it's still a mystery to me, to be honest,
Yeah.
how that actually works. I can understand it with lyrics. You can understand it because you're telling this story, and everyone has that language. But with how does that happen when you have, like, you put two or three notes together and people start crying
Oh,
or
but that
laughing?
always fascinates me, because I keep thinking, you know, what is singing? So I only ever sing one note at a time. Just one note. I went, how does that work?
Yeah.
And you just put like another one after it, and then the next something magical happens. Like, what? It's only that's
Yeah,
all I can do is just one note at a time.
yeah. It's the whole thing is a fantastic mystery, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
It certainly is. So, what are you doing for live music? Where's the best place for people to buy this to really benefit you? I know streaming is kind of taboo, but it's necessary. Where's the best place to go and get it?
Well, we're on all the streaming services. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Music, but Amazon are selling. So the album's been distributed throughout America, and that's I think that's through Amazon. But so we've got distribution there, and the UK and Europe. So and the rest of the world. So yes, so I think there's lots of places to get the physical copy and also the downloads as well. Um,
And we have our
yeah,
websites as well. So
yeah, and our
Yeah.
website. And they're
martintaylor.com.
probably they're probably the best places to start. So martintaylor.com and alisonburns.com are the best places to go to get all those connections to have a listen or buy the album if you feel so inclined.
And actually, I was thinking about it. We have quite a lot of footage on YouTube as well.
We do, we
There's
do.
quite a lot there, live and some studio things as well.
Mm.
And we also had some wonderful images that were put together by a friend of ours, Patrick Rooney. So we have videos that accompany some of these songs as well, and you can find all of that on YouTube.
Yeah,
I
or
think so,
through our websites as well.
and website too. Yeah, you'll find
And the
those there.
usual
Really,
Twitter
really
spaces.
beautiful images that capture the mood of what the album's about nature.
You know, we did a perfect full circle here. I don't know. We didn't really have it on prior to to Martin coming in, but we had mentioned JK Rowling and the magic and living up there. And then your last thought was the magic of music. It was like everything just kind of came into this perfect Patronus. So it's
Yeah.
it's been wonderful to catch up with you. Thank you for taking a minute out to talk about this album and your union and how all of this works. So thank you. I appreciate your time today.
Well,
Well, thank
thank
you
you for
very much.
asking, Joe. That's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for asking.